And it was an efficient performance, really, as far as the defending champions were concerned. 6 shots on target, resulting in the 4 goals. They had 14 shots in all. Somehow, the expected goals were under 1.5. I'll get you, Owen, to explain that in a second. But Brighton very much second best across the 90 minutes. And for Manchester City, could you argue they barely got out of second gear to record the 3 points, Owen?
They probably didn't need to be fair. Brighton made it so easy for them. And when you make mistakes against Manchester City, the guys are too good. They're just going to punish you. I understand Brighton want to play between the lines and from the goalkeeper, but the way City set up today, that was always going to happen. And when they're that clinical and you give them a couple of goals, then forget about it.
It was the perfect tonic for City, really, after what has been a couple of really difficult games against Real and Chelsea. Come to Brighton, I feel as though Brighton played right into their hands. Even Pep's comments about Roberto De Zerbi, how much he admires him, it kind of, I suppose, plays up to people's egos, and you want to impress who is ultimately the best manager in the world.
You think he's buttering up before the game?
Well,
a little bit.
You had the best of it, Alex Ferguson, didn't you? I mean, that is what the best do. It's mind games, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But mind game, but he never used to butter up the opposition, or would he?
No, but there's different ways to do it.
But we would. The thing is, I think with our teams, we could play different ways. So we could play on the counter, or we could out-possession, we could out-football you. Whereas this Brighton side, they only really play one way. And Pep knows that. And if he looks at the video, he knows Brighton are going to play that way. And I do think he is probably buttering up a bit, saying, well, you guys play some great stuff. And then it's 4-0 later. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes you'd be better off just going a little bit longer, and surprise them. But obviously they knew they're going to play because they play great stuff. But I think he's definitely buttering up a bit.
Yeah, Owen's saying slightly one-dimensional from Brighton.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've got to take into consideration circumstances as well. They're missing their best players, their best outlets, and I honestly think this City side do concede goals, and they did get in good positions tonight. They just made the wrong options, but it was before they got in those positions. It was the naiveness of trying to get out. A couple of times, Belieber could have gotten the half-term, where like Caicedo last season, and he's the most expensive player in the Premier League.
Yeah.
He would have got out, and all of a sudden we would have been like that. That's brilliant from Brighton. But those individual, I suppose, decisions, they can paint a whole different picture on what you're trying to do.
For City, though, it's 4 league wins on the spin. I mean, they've scored 17 goals in the process. It's City reverting to type right now, is it not, in the Premier League?
This is what they normally do, isn't it, really? I think come the business end of the season, when they need to win and score goals, they, regardless of who's playing or how they're playing, they seem to turn it on and get the results that they need to get. And they came here and they didn't, I wouldn't say they necessarily started great. I don't think the game was a great watch, to be honest with you, first of all, but they had a good moment in the game where they scored that fantastic goal. And then from that moment onwards, it was just kind of, in a way, how many goals are City going to score? And that's the way it kind of, for me, it seemed to go.
Do you think it's taken longer for us to see this City in this Premier League season than usual?
I would say so in some ways, but I would also say that I think that other teams in the league have got better. So with them coming off the treble win, everybody's going to be out to beat them. Pretty much everyone they've played with a very, very low block. If Phil Foden pretty much wasn't on fire, he's the one that's been breaking them down because Kevin's been injured. Haaland's been out a lot. So they've had a kind of weird front 3-4 because they haven't had the players that they wanted for the whole season. But whatever reason, Phil stepped up and he's stepped up again, and this with Kevin as well. So I think in many ways they're playing differently. They're playing well, but they're not the same City team as last year or the year before. I think every year they affect and win games completely different to the way they have done over the years. And I think that's why sometimes it's hard for a lot of teams to kind of deal with them, because you think they're going to play a certain way, but they hurt you from somewhere else. Like before, we're all worried about Kevin. Now you're worried about Kevin and Phil Foden. And Phil's the one that gets the 2 goals, whereas, say, last year or the year before, that would have been Kevin. That was either got 2 assists or scored 2 of those goals.
It's funny, Glenn, you talk about them maybe kick-starting that run later than usual. They're actually unbeaten in 18, and they've dropped points in only 3 of those games with 3 draws. So there is clearly some momentum going their way right now. Now, we've all, for a long time now, waxed lyrical about Kevin De Bruyne and what he's got in his armoury. Maybe a headed goal isn't one of them. Up until today, Owen, This really was a collector's item, wasn't it?
I mean, let's be honest, if he was going to score a header goal, it had to have a little bit of finesse on it. He's that type of player, isn't he? I mean, who heads a ball like this with a bit of spin and lobs the keeper? I mean, it's a brilliant ball from Kyle Walker. Kevin's the best at sitting, nestling in a little position. And to be fair, normally he'd probably go with his foot, but this is the thing I love about, Pep. He knows, obviously, with playing Alvarez up there and Foden, they can rotate. Foden goes into that little pocket there, and Hector follows him. Alvarez adjusts his position. Kev goes to where Alvarez was. How about this for a little pick out? And then a finesse looping chip header. Mad. I mean, that is amazing.
It's the power he generates from it. I don't think I could generate that much power from that, to be honest with you. And he's just like you said, the backspin on it as well.
It's almost the only place he can go in the goal, isn't it? He completely almost wrong foots. The goalkeeper was expecting almost a bullet header, and it just loops up into that top corner. But it was exactly what City needed at that point.
Yeah, that's almost as rare as a header from Shaun Wright-Phillips, who also managed one in his league career.
Oh, but that was Shaun. Salmon at the back post.
Where did that jump come from?
It's always been there.
Looks like bread and butter, that.
It's easy. Light work.
Like Calvert-Lewin in the back stick.
Actually, here's another one. Between you and Owen, how many headed goals do you think you guys got in the Premier League?
One each.
One. He didn't get one.
I wasn't allowed that far.
Right, let's go to 2-0 then for Manchester City. Now, this has proved to be quite controversial. It came from a free kick. Should it have been given in the first place, Glenn?
No, not at all. I mean, and it's easy to say that with hindsight, but he's skipping through a couple of players. That's probably not the best angle of it. A couple of nibbles, no real contact. I can understand why the referee's been sucked into giving it, but it's this contact here. He's going to take his other step. He kicks the back of Belieber, and that, I don't think for any of us sat here, is a penalty.
To be fair, the ref had an amazing position of it. He was right there, and then this happened, off Pascal Gross, who's probably been their best player this season. So unfortunate. And Phil Foden saying, give me the player of the year. That's, you know what I mean? I'm going to score one, I'm going to get two, and I'm going to be the best player in the Premier League. The kid is just amazing. Yeah,
and a milestone goal for him because that's his 50th Premier League goal, followed very soon after by his 51st. Shaun, what about Brighton's part in this?
There's too many errors. I think we all spoken about it. Brighton have so many opportunities to play out of this press. There's one here out wide, then he can play up there, but they're just taking too many chances, and Bernardo gets that touch and feels just in the right place, and the way he just passes that in.
You know what that reminds me of? Because, it's like, obviously they can go long there, but that reminds me of when you do a keep ball with no goals.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to keep it for the sake of keeping it. Steve, you've got Dunk on there, especially when the press is on from City in that centre area. Why go back in there? City are so good at that.
Keep ball, though, normally you would still pass out wide to where the space is to keep that. To keep the ball, but they don't. They just keep playing in those dangerous areas.
Is this the naivety you talked about, Glenn, earlier?
Yeah, because I think they had three different opportunities to get out of that, and to go back in 4 times, I think that's naive. And like I say, if they'd got out of that, we'd be waxing lyrical about how good they are at breaking that press. And that is ultimately probably, we touched at the top of the show, didn't we, what teams haven't been doing to them as much this year. City did it today. The bigger clubs tend to do it because they don't care so much if you beat that press. But they just showed a little bit of naivety by going back in all the time.
But, I mean, it's a really good point because actually you think about no McAllister, no Caicedo, they're getting out of there. Yeah. They're taking on the back foot and spinning out. So obviously they've got a young long players in there. Baleba's he's only 20, plays into Baku. I think is he 18?
Yeah.
So the young guys, I think when you got the top players in there, they'll make better decisions. Where the young guys are making a couple of mistakes.
But also they're both new to this system as well,
and league.
Yeah. So once they get used to it, I think maybe next year he turns out there and they beat that press.
How will that go down with Roberto De Zerbi if he's encouraging that style of play? I mean, because we've heard from a lot of managers this season, even from those that have come up, the likes of Luton or Burnley, which is, we take risks, but if they make a mistake, that's on us. So, they're ultimately holding their hand, saying we'll be responsible if it doesn't work. Yeah,
I think throughout his tenure at Brighton, we can see that is the style of play that he wants, and he wants to try and invite that press and beat that press. So I don't think he'll be tearing strips off the lads, but I think he'll probably give it 24 hours and he'll be sitting down and be saying to Barco and Belieber especially, these are the areas where you make a difference, where you go to that next level like your Caicedos and your McAllisters.
Yeah. Talking of Barco, unfortunately, it was at the heart of the fourth goal for Manchester City. Did this look pre-planned to you, Shaun?
100%. From us, you very rarely see Walker that high, but I think as soon as Brighton changed their formation, I feel like Pep said something, and Edison's noticed that straight away, because he's just gone, look, he sees it, and he's already itching forward. He's got to see him there, right? He's got to pay more attention.
His teammates even pointing it out, and even
last thing you want to do is give Kyle a head start.
Exactly. I mean, he might be new to the Premier League, but he'll have watched it for 20 years, and he knows how fast Kyle Walker
even on FIFA, he's quick.
Everyone knows how quick he is. Like you say, he's the last person you want to give, and again, that buys into that naiveness that I speak about. You've just got to give yourself 10 yards, because he's actually stepping into an area where he's not going to affect the play.
Yeah. Is a handball there, by the way? It appears to strike Kyle Walker's left hand.
100% handball.
He's going to say that on
Nobody knows what handball is anymore, do they?
Yeah. If it's not deliberate, it doesn't matter. If it's the assist maker.
Yeah, no, it wasn't deliberate.
No, I didn't even realise it touched him until you lot talked about it, because I didn't really see the ball change the direction. It seemed to go the same way it was going.
Owen?
No, I mean, he's clutching anyway. But he would be when they've had a bad day.
I'm joking with that one. That wasn't that one.
Talking of clutching, no, I'm only joking, but should Brighton have had a penalty?
Yeah, 100%. These two, with their City hats on, I don't think it is a penalty, but this is 100% a penalty. By the way, for him to get into the position is absolutely brilliant. He dances through the 4 or 5 City players there. And for me, that 100%. Next step is shooting. I can't understand how these two are looking at me with a straight face telling me that is not a penalty.
I feel like he's got to focus on shooting. I think as soon as he's
allowed to swing. Next step.
Yeah, but swing. At least try and shoot. He doesn't even think about shooting. He's thinking about that contact to go to ground straight away.
We're hearing it was minimal impact and he went to ground too easily.
I'm in agreement with that.
I've seen penalties given this.
I've seen them given, but he thinks more contact's coming, and that's why he's going down a little bit.
He's played
fraction early.
Yeah.
And when you go down early, you never get it.
Yeah.
The refs are, and to be fair, the ref was in a decent position as well. Pascal Gross was going mad at the referee. He was literally that close, saying, "Give it."
Exactly, because Pascal could see it was one.
But look, in the end, City are breathing down Arsenal's necks. They're only 1 point behind the Gunners. Let's get some post-match reaction from the City head coach, Pep Guardiola.
Pep, you said to us before the game, it's all about the game that's in front of you, but you've made a statement tonight. How big a statement, other than just winning the game, have you made?
The statement is 3 points. This is only a statement. We have, in 2 days, we arrive today at 2 a.m. at home, and after tomorrow we have to fly to Nottingham and another one. So this is a statement. Win the game because we know what we have to do to arrive at the end and try to fight to be champion.
You've spoken about that many times before, that you do know what you have to do. How important is that knowledge at this moment with the race so close?
We have been here in the past, but that doesn't mean just for the fact that we have been here, it's going to happen. We have to do the things make it happen. So we come here and an opponent that we know Brighton's strength, and never give up. We saw in the second half, but in the first half we found all the rhythm, the right rhythm to play and find a field. We were scoring in the right moment in the first time we arrived, and the second in I don't know whose fault, and so in the right moments we punished them, and we won a really, really important game. Brighton away always is really tough. All Premier League teams know it.
On top of those 3 points, it's 4 goals, and you've cut that goal difference with Arsenal to single figures. How crucial could that all prove to be in the coming games?
Yeah, it's difficult to cut them. So the margin is so big. So they score a lot of goals, they don't concede. Of course, you can score goals, and goals will be better, but the target is win the game. So we have 5 games left, is a lot. So the tough ones. So Nottingham for relegation zone, and Fulham away and Spurs away always is difficult. So a part of the 2 games at home. So 1 game at a time. So now recover and Nottingham first.
You have a very special group of players and special individuals. Kevin De Bruyne, his first ever headed Premier League goal, but not an ordinary header. How technically difficult was that?
Yeah, it's not his strength, but I'm more than welcome. I invite him if he score more goals. Perfect.
Phil Foden as well, 2 for him tonight. His 51st Premier League goal in total. How much has he grown in your eyes as a player, and is he a contender this year for one of the players of the season amongst many?
Yeah, for sure. But what he wants is win the Premier League. So in his age, he won a lot of titles, and of course, his influence in the final third, in the goals, in everything today was playing a little bit better than the previous last 2 or 3 games. It was a little bit more accelerated, more anxious. Today was more calm. The decision making was really good, and the talent in front of the goal is always good.
We spoke also before the game about one of the challenges for all of the coaches is the rest, the recuperation, looking after those players. How big is that challenge for you at the moment, other than just winning the games?
A lot, especially the next one. After you have 2 weeks, we have next 2 games against Wolves and Fulham. We have a long week. It will not be a problem, but this week will be a tricky one. So because they are so fast, Nottingham, they are a good patterns, and you have to prepare well.
And just finally, Pep, after the week we've had with Arsenal, yourselves and Liverpool, in your opinion, is everyone still involved in this race?
Yeah. Many things can happen. So what happened in Liverpool that dropped two games against Crystal Palace and yesterday against Everton can happen to us, can happen to Arsenal. Nobody's safe for that. So it's just to be calm and be happy today for the victory, because we come here for terrible long schedule, but the players are still they are there, and now it's just recover and think to the next one.
Well done. We're enjoying the race.
Thank you so much.
Interesting line actually about the title race. He's not discounting anyone at this stage. Is he saying that for the players' benefit, or do you think he genuinely believes that?
Oh, no, he believes that. I think he's right. I think we've seen now with Liverpool as well. Teams are going to drop points. I think they might even...
What, between now and the end of the season?
Yeah, I do think, everybody's got tricky games. Arsenal obviously had the hardest ones. Liverpool second and City had the easiest running. But I still think there's tricky games in there, and we've seen there's surprises. You look at yesterday, you think Everton are going to lose to Liverpool comfortably, and in the league does bring surprises. So... But no, City are in a great position. They're comfortable right now, but I do think we might get a couple of surprises.
How City have almost 2 plans with and without Haaland, and can be almost more unpredictable without him.
And they'd win the league with both plans.
Yeah.
That's
and that's quite something.
And they were brilliant before he came, and all of a sudden he comes and then he makes them different. He gets goals in big games, he gets goals in bunches. But obviously I think when you get guys like, Alvarez and Foden and Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne, they all think the same way about football. They all want to come short, they want to link. It's really interesting what he said about that goal where Van Hecke comes out. They worked on that.
Yeah.
And everybody adjusts their position. Phil goes, and then Alvarez comes over, Kevin De Bruyne. They worked on that. And so Pep's playing chess out there, and that's why he's the best. And these players kind of fit that model. Haaland is kind of, he's bulldozing everybody and smashing the ball into the back of net. So to have both is just a thing of beauty.
So let's see where we lie then in terms of the title race. Let's have a look at the remaining fixtures for the 3 protagonists involved. So Arsenal at the minute at the summit by the solitary point. But of course, Manchester City have that crucial game in hand. So they've got 5. Arsenal have got 4 and Liverpool have got 4. Liverpool have got work to do, of course. They're 3 points off Arsenal. Now, this is interesting, right? So we've calculated what those 3 sides got against those opponents last season. Do you know what it comes out as? All 3 are level on 86 points. What's the chances of that happening
That
again?
was last season, Manish. This is the new season.
Yeah, but come on.
You thought he had a good argument there, Ken.
When you look at City's fixtures, the only one that could be a trip hazard is Tottenham away.
Yeah.
And I just feel as though Tottenham, it'll be a toe-to-toe game. I think both coaches will totally go for it, and both will concede chances. But I just feel as though City in this mood have just got that killer instinct.
Yeah.
Forest are fighting for their life down there. Fulham are a pretty unique team at times. They can be brilliant, very unpredictable.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that Tottenham game is the big one for them.
Would you say so as well? Spurs? Although you said Brighton was going to be the trickiest.
Yeah,
He was just being humble, wasn't he?
No, well, I kind of, do you know what? I kind of think some of the games that they have are sometimes trickier. They say it might be an easier run, but that's just based on the names, their positioning in the table in comparison to some of the other teams. I think they can all potentially be banana skins. I think if you look at City's run in, 15, 20 games ago, they had a run of 7 games, which was possibly harder than Arsenal's and Liverpool's, and they managed to come through that. I wouldn't say so much as unscathed, but without dropping too many points, and that kept them where they are in the table. So when they have had the game to catch up on, they've caught up, and now they're in so many ways, they're in a pole position. But for me, they have to go into all these games with the same attitude they went into Brighton, with the same attitude they went into Real Madrid. Otherwise, they will drop points against them.
I think this weekend for Arsenal is huge. North London derby. If anyone's desperate for them not to win the title, it'll be their arch rivals, won't it?
Them, yeah.
Do you know, and Spurs, they're going to have the biggest say. Their form in the next 3 or 4 games, they're going to be the ones, whoever they can pull a result out against, that's what it'll boil down to.
City have lost on each of their visits to Spurs' new stadium.
I was there for the games
Premier League
with my son. To be fair, they got hammered, but they've somehow found a way to win the game.
Yeah, but City can't afford for that to happen again.
No, but I think the way Tottenham play is going to play into Pep's hands. You know, they put the fullbacks into those midfield positions. We saw what Brighton did. Ange will do the same, or similar.
Yeah.
And Pep will have a game plan for it. He'll just play chess and they'll win it.
And I think without Ndogi, that could be a massive problem for Spurs.
Yeah.
I think he's injured, but I don't know. I honestly think...
Has that raised a doubt for you now?
No, I don't think so. I think in many ways, City will be in a driving pole position for the league by that Spurs game. So that Spurs game, they may be able to fall to a draw that and then go away and win the last game of the season and still win the league.
I think in all fairness, with your stat about City not winning, this is a different Spurs. That was a Spurs with a closed back door, defensive mindset. This is a Spurs that open up and go for it.
Yeah.
Which it'll make for a great game.
That's the last time I give you a positive spin on Brighton.
Roberto, you said to us before the game this would be a difficult ask and a difficult task. How difficult did it prove to be tonight?
City are one of the best team in the world. They played very well. I'm sorry for the first 2 goals. For the same, but the first 2 goals I think were unlucky.
Pep Guardiola paid you a great compliment before the game. He said you were an exceptionally brave coach and your teams play in a brave fashion, but sometimes if you play in that style, can it also hurt you?
Guardiola ti ha detto che giochi molto coraggioso come allenatore, però potrebbe anche essere che giocando così coraggioso poi tu ti possa fare del male?
Yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes we took the advantages. For sure, if you made mistakes, you can concede goal. You have to analyze the whole season and how many goals we score and how many points we made playing the ball and the advantages and what we can concede.
Were there some moments in the game that could have gone for you today, both by your own doing and perhaps some decisions that didn't go in your favour tonight?
Probabilmente ci sono state delle decisioni che non sono andate a tuo favore, no, stasera?
The referees?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to keep my eye on the team, on the players, what we can improve, what we have to do better, for sure. Valentin Barco made mistake in the first goal, but it's 2004 and it was the first game in Premier League, and you forgot to say Barco mistakes.
This club has come a long way in a very short space of time, but tonight show you how big that gap is to take the next step up, Roberto?
Yes, and we go forward like this. Playing with 2004, 2005, Barco played very well. I think he made mistake in the third and the fourth goal, but he played a good game. Odell Ofia, the second half play well as well, and Mark Omaori played another good game. We have a lot of young players, and you know what, the young players need to play, need to make mistakes, to improve and to grow up, but is our policy, and we have to accept. And in the future, the same Carlos Baleba. Carlos Baleba is another potential very important player, but they need to play, they need to make mistakes for sure, and we have to accept.
He's right to talk about the players that are missing, and there's no doubt he's got key players at the minute, and he's really up against it. But what did you think, in the other part of that interview, what he had to say?
I think when he's got to deal with sort of the process the club go through, that they let people go and they bring people in to replace them, that they think that one day we'll be able to fill their shoes. And with Caicedo, you see Baleba stepping in. And he made a really good point there, saying that they need to make those mistakes to become the players that they can become and fulfil that potential. And they're really hard lessons, especially when you're playing against Manchester City. Barco, again, he did good things, but he made crucial mistakes. And at this level of football, you will get punished. But in the long run for the club, those players will develop. And in a year, in 18 months, we'll be talking in a different tongue about them. They'll be the next best thing. But unfortunately, frustrating for Brighton, their time in the first teams maybe came a little bit too early due to people leaving and due to injuries.
Did he have other options rather than thrust a youngster to make his debut against the defending champions? What I'm saying is, did he choose to make life slightly harder for himself than he needed to? Not
really. He obviously sees this kid every day in training, and he felt he was up with the task. And like he said, there was positives in his game, but also your negatives get punished that much more at this elite level of football. But when you look at the squad, Estepinian's out. And if you want to have an outlet on that left-hand side, Igor Julio is not really that outlet. He's naturally a centre-back. Yeah. He's been playing out of position most of the season, square pegs in round holes. So it's like, do you want to try and get at City down the flanks and add a little bit of speed to your side? Or do you want to sit in a low block and invite City onto you? I mean, either which way is hard against them.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought when he makes the subs after with Ndingra and Afaya. Like, surely that should have been what he started with at home rather than go in the opposite direction. Because if you're going to go the defensive and, like Owen said, try and control the game option, and you go 2-0 down, well, you're already fighting an uphill battle, and then you go on two attackers, and you're even more open.
I know, but we could sit here and he could have put that attacking line up and there could have been 3-0 down. But like, well, why didn't he just stick back? It's like it's a no-win situation against City, especially when he hasn't got anywhere near his strongest 11 available to him. He's trying to fill, he's trying to develop players, which is high on the club's protocol. That's what they want to do. That's what they've done for 5, 6, 7 years now. And I mean, when you look at the players that are littered throughout the Premier League that have come from Brighton, your Ben Whites, your Trossards, your Bissoumas, your Caicedo, your McAllisters, all of a sudden you're thinking, wow, that is real talent. But to get to those clubs and to get that potential moving forward and to fulfil that potential, ultimately, like he said in his interview, you need to make mistakes.
Of course.
Yeah. Were they right to be trying to play out from the back as they tried to against City today?
Well, that's the only reason why everybody raves about them. And the only reason we're being critical of them right now is because of the fact they overachieved last season by playing this beautiful football. These guys play football different. They play like, we call it boxes. Every football team warms out with boxes. So it's like a 6v2, and you just trying to, you outnumber them and you should be able to get out. That's how De Zerbi plays football from the back. You just try to outnumber you, and then you play out between the lines. And they did that early on in the game. There's moments where they're popping about and it looks beautiful. The only problem is when you're a team that's missing some of those world-class players that have been sold, and then you bring in other guys that aren't really ready for it. See, like, that's great. You can play out and you get out. You switch it up. But when you start to make mistakes like they did against Manchester City, I think it really hurts you. We know they can play brilliant football, but I mean, look at his pass. I mean, that didn't happen last season. Whether it's McAllister or Caicedo or the centre-back partnership, I just think the first thing I saw when I saw the team sheet, I thought, wow, that team looks so different from the one I'd imagined in my mind. I know they've had a lot of injuries, and then I think when you're trying to play the same way with different personnel, we saw today, you're going to struggle.
Takes time. Yeah. Definitely takes time. You can see what they're trying to do, though, right? I get it, but like you said, that they are very young in respects of thinking the way, say, Caicedo and McAllister would think when they get into situations. Because even in this play here, there are a lot of options for them to get out of the press and beat the press. But it's almost like they ignore those options and play in those dangerous areas just to try and get out of it a different way.
Yeah. It feels like no matter who's available to him, players-wise, whether they're first string or second string, he's almost welded to that philosophy no matter what.
Yeah, that is his philosophy. That is the way that he sees football, and ultimately that is what attracted Brighton to him in the first place. And not only Brighton, I mean, before this downturn in form due to largely injuries, he was getting linked with the biggest jobs in the world. So he's doing something right.
Yeah. Look, and to put into context, I mean, they're still going for their second highest ever Premier League finish after finishing sixth.
His expectation has risen enormously throughout the club. But you can't expect more and ship out Caicedo and McAllister and just continue that trend and have a maiden year in Europe. Like, it's impossible to keep that trajectory when you ultimately are a selling club.
So a small squad has been decimated through injuries. You're competing on four fronts. Should he have been given more backing in January?
Well, they brought Barco in January. I think.
But we're only seeing him today for the first time.
Yeah, because it's taken him that long, but he was like 12 million. So I think when we look across the Premier League, no one really spent in January. It was a strange January, in all fairness. I think it was the lowest spending transfer window we've had in the Premier League. So should he have been backed more? Then they can't go out and get the players for the cost they've got and sort of where they are from a financial point of view. They can't go and replace your Marches and your Mitomas. They've got to go and find them, unearth them and develop them.
Thing is, they got a new goalkeeper, they got a new striker, they got a complete new midfield, and they've got injuries. I mean, let's be honest. And Europe, this was bound to happen, I think, with the way they started. And obviously, I'm sure if they could go back and do it differently, they probably would. But I think sometimes you learn. But they're learning at a brilliant pace. They're still an amazing side. This season's been tough for them.
Yeah. Can I just ask you one thing? It's been an amazing rise in the last 18 months under De Zerbi, the European football for the first time in their history. He's been linked with other clubs, as you mentioned, and obviously that just remains as rumours. But to quell all the uncertainty, would you like De Zerbi just to say publicly, look, I'm here to stay and we can build for next season, so therefore the players know which direction this club's heading in?
I don't think it really matters to the players. The players listen to whoever the head coach is at the moment. I think that would appease the fans more than anything. Footballers understand that managers come and go, systems change. Brighton have always got a certain identity running through them. If Roberto De Zerbi did decide to leave, they wouldn't go and appoint a Sam Allardyce because that wouldn't suit the players that are in. It's sort of it's continuation planning of the manager and the style and the system. It suits the football club, and it suits the players. So it doesn't bother the players, I don't think. For me, I think it might be a blessing in disguise. Listen, that rise has been, like you say, it's been incredible, but you can't just keep going and going and going. But as long as you're putting the building blocks to be able to bounce back the following year, that's the most important thing. And like we've said, these players will only get better.